Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. I'm Jason Abrams, and this is the place where we lift the curtain on the world of real estate like never before. Every week, I sit down with visionaries, pirates, and mavericks. We're here to document, demonstrate, and most importantly, demystify their game-changing models and systems. What secrets propel them to the top? And how are they living their dreams? This is about passion, it's about strategy, but above all, it's about real, tangible success. So buckle up and let's dive in. This is the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. As far as I'm concerned, you can never do enough episodes about activating and connecting with your database. When polled, the number one source of business that closes for real estate agents was, is, and in my opinion, for the foreseeable future will be sphere of influence and database referrals. I have an absolute expert for you today on this subject. He and his team are $100 million producers year in and year out. And here's the thing, they've been doing it for 30 years in Austin, Texas. This is one of the calmest, kindest people you're ever gonna meet. But inside of that calmness lives a fierce competitor who wakes up every single day and simply by focusing on having 20 conversations a day has managed to build with his beautiful wife, Susan, this incredible business. Friends, he is going to teach you exactly how to kickstart your database and generate leads in just a few hours a day. He's going to explain his thinking, how his day work, how his teams work, and most importantly, how he turns conversations into dollars. Friends, sit back and buckle up. This is Gene Arant. Gene, how are you, sir?
Excellent. Just staying nice and warm here in this cool Austin, Texas weather today.
Yeah, well, it's fun. So for those of you out in the realtor multiverse, we are talking during the winter blast. So I'm looking at Gene, and he's wearing a winter coat as he does this episode with us. Gene, you have been in the industry a long time, 30 years. You're incredibly successful, and your business is booming. But I want to go back before all of that. How did you come into the greatest industry in the world?
You know, my wife and I, at that time, we were dating, and we had a little bit of money saved up, and we were able to buy what we, back in 1992, was what we called a non-qualifying assumption. So we'd saved up $10,000. We were able to put it down on a home. It was a 1987 loan. We were able to assume it, and because we had no credit. And in doing that, just really enjoyed the process. And not the smartest guy in the world, but decent common sense. And just the people that I had run to in those, 22 years of my life that seemed to be wealthy or seemed to have something going on had something to do with real estate. And so I just kind of investigated more. And we looked at how can we buy investment properties, looking at, the zero downs and all that kind of stuff. And we found a duplex. We got it under contract and realized that if anything went sideways, it had some foundation issues. We didn't have the reserves. And so at the same time, that broker said, hey, have you ever thought about getting a real estate license? And I was going to community college at that time. I was working in a wood shop. I'd been working there for 8 years, from middle school through high school into college. And so real estate is really my second job. And so it seemed a lot better to go drive around and look at houses than sitting in a warehouse that was un-air conditioned in Austin, Texas, blowing sawdust off myself every day before I headed home. And so in 10 days, I went 10 days straight, 10 hours a day, got my license. In 10 days, had my real estate license.
So talk to me about the beginning, because you get the license, but up to this point, it wasn't like you had a degree in real estate. It wasn't a family business. You were coming into it. All you had was the license that you get out of the class, which does nothing to teach you how to sell real estate. So you're now a licensed agent. It's day one. Do you have immediate success?
No, I sold 2 houses my first year, made $11,000, both of them to good friends of mine. And turned out my broker was alcoholic. His brokerage was in his house. I'd go there. I'm used to being there up early. He'd wake up at noon and, just, hey, here's some phone numbers, call him. So I had no direction. And so luckily, the second house I sold was out in a place called Lakeway. And in doing that, I met the broker on the other side, and he was a younger guy like myself, and I'd run into him a couple places downtown because we, Susan and I would go out on the weekends. And he said, man, you really come out and talk to us. And I did that. And so it was a small local boutique brokerage. And the broker was more of a hands-on guy and wheeler dealer. He was out just hustling. And I rode around in a Suburban, and I just listened to him on his big old brick phone, and he made deals. And he said, here's a plat map. I want you to find me every single empty lot, call that owner. And if we get them to sell us a lot, I've got builders lined up. We'll build specs and you can list them. And so I started doing that. And what turned into 2 deals turned into 5 deals. And I was with them for 5 years and built a decent business.
Well, you really saw Lakeway change around you. Because as I think of Lakeway today, you have these big master plan communities with 3,000 and 4,000 homes. But if you're going back to 92, this was kind of like a sleepy little lakes community, I'm guessing.
Yeah, 1994. It was a lot of older people, a big time retirement community. Schools were small there. Yeah, it was up and coming, but it was still fairly rural at that point.
So you start finding the lots. He has the builder connections. Y'all start to build, and then you start selling those. That works right up until it doesn't. What happens next?
So at that point, I had gone and taken a class, and you may remember Hobbs Herder, and they were a marketing company. And so a marketing branding company, and they gave you a formula to figure out, how can you build your business around a brand? And I always liked waterfront homes. So I really jumped into being the waterfront guy at that time. And doing that, I would, all my open houses, if you had a waterfront and it was vacant and you were at a different company, I'd call you and say, hey, can I hold it open? And so every weekend I was doing open houses. Long story short, being in my early 20s, if you drove up from Houston and you looked at waterfront and you came through my open house, I knew every home was on the market, every home that sold, every for sale by owner, anybody who would consider selling. And so I was just a wealth of information. And so immediately I built a credibility there and started by building my business around that. Well, that was great until 2000. In 2000 in Austin, we had a major downturn and the NASDAQ imploded, and that was a luxury market that we were in. And so my business just tanked. And at that time I was coaching with our old friend, Dave Jenks. And Dave said, hey, if you can get an opportunity to take a listen, you take it anywhere you can. And at that time, I was really promoting LakeTravisRealEstate.com, but I'd also bought Austin, Texas Realestate.com. And so I flip-flopped, and all of a sudden I went broad. And I found out, wow, I was missing a lot of business that I thought I had no idea, because people are like, oh, I thought you only did Lake. I didn't know you could sell my sister a house over here or my parents a house over here. And so that really changed, that helped to change my business. And it also going through a downturn, it really helped to, push through and figure out how to sell houses in a different market.
I love that. By the way, the fact that you coach with Dave Jenks, and for those of you that are new to the show, it's called the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Podcast. That's the namesake for the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which was written by Gary Keller, Jay Papasan, and may he rest in peace, Dave Jenks. Anytime we get the chance to talk about Dave, I love to do it. Gene, as you reflect on the time that you spent coaching with Dave, what's the aha? What's the one thing? And he had so many great lines and such understanding of leadership. What's the one thing that you take in your heart from the time that you spent with him?
I think I always try to overcomplicate things. And he's like, it's not that complicated. It's not that complicated. And so that was the biggest thing. Just, quit trying to make it complicated. And so that was major for me.
Yeah, Gary Keller always says that the best things in life are the simplest, yet everything naturally wants to become more complicated. And that is so right. All right, friends, we are about to get into a model. Now, don't worry about taking notes. If you're bombing down the freeway at 100 miles an hour in the Tesla, you're good. I'm taking the notes. They come out every Thursday. If you don't get them, you can sign up at MREAnotes.com. That's MREAnotes.com. Perfect. All right. Gene, you don't do this kind of business without doing something incredibly well. And I happen to know you, and so I know that you're a lead generation guru, from how to do it, how to get them through, and then how to convert them. Walk me through. I want you to pretend I'm an agent. I'm driving down the freeway right now, and I want to make more money. And I know I need to double down on lead gen and conversion. How do you think about it?
I hate to say it's this simple, but I learned it in bold, right? It's 20 contacts a day, right? It's 20 conversations with people a day. That's it. There's nothing more to it. If you really have 20 conversations asking somebody if they have any needs in real estate and anything else you can do to help them, it's going to perpetuate itself day after day, and it's going to get into momentum, and you're not going to have enough time in your life to be able to service enough people. You talk to 100 people a week, you're done.
I got to push back because there's a group of people that are listening right now that say, there's no way you can have this much success and it boil down to something that simple. When you say all you need to do is have 20 real estate conversations a day, you 100% believe that because you're stone-faced looking at me like I'm speaking a different language by questioning it. That truly works.
You can add the word quality, right? Quality. You could add the word is coming from contribution, right? So if you have 20 quality conversations coming from contribution about how you can help somebody buy, sell, or improve their home, or make a difference for somebody else that needs some help, has any questions in real estate, one of their biggest investments, whether it's refinancing, whether it's they need a plumber, whether they need to know, what's the right light fixture to put in my house, what's the cool trends today, where should I invest, where should I not invest in my house? That does take time to learn those things. I get that, but that's all it is. If you just figure out how to bring that conversation around to helping them, you don't even have to ask for the business,
It's so simple, but there's a brilliance, a very calm brilliance in what you're saying. So naturally, then I look up and say, okay, where do I get 20 quality conversations a day from?
Yeah. Well, again, that's something you have to focus on, right? When somebody joins our team, they have to have 200 people to put into our database, period.
Let's unpack this idea of resources because you said two things that I think are sage. Number one, you need to have a database. And so I'm starting on your team. I'm going to have this core group of 200 people.
Number one, period.
But then I have to have something to say to them. And in this conversation, it's, hey, I have these resources. Walk me through an idea of what these resources might be. What do you all provide?
I mean, for us, we're actually very good at it, right? I'm blessed to have somebody on the team that is our concierge, Joanna, on our team. So her job is to simply give you a call. So if you're a seller, she's going to check in. First of all, we're going to have a stager go through and we're going to have a report. Boom. She's going to give you a call. She's going to say, here, I've got the painter. I've got the window washer. I got the power washer. It's vacant. We've got a bid. Here's the vacant stage cost. Boom, 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 right? Because we know homes sell better if they look better, right? It's all about online presence. And so we're going to maximize whatever we can for condition. And so that's just one side of it. On the buyer side, again, you as an individual agent, until you're really busy, you have this time. And, you check in and say, I know you're moving to Austin, but boom, what are your needs? Do you need a veterinarian? Your kids, do they have any special needs? Or do you need to know anything about traffic? Do you need to know anything about shopping? What is it that you feel like that would help you the most to get settled in your new home?
Okay, so that takes care of seller and it takes care of buyer. What about just people in my database? It's my first day in the gig. I have my 200 people.
Sure.
What am I saying to them?
Yeah. If you own a home, it's like, hey, do you have any plans with your home this spring? Is there anything I can help you with? Do you need a landscaper? Do you need a painter? Anything down that road of that has to do with their home, right? They may say, yeah, but I really need to put a new roof on the house. I got 2 great roofers. Would you like to get multiple bids? I'm happy to get that done for you.
This is great, man. You're not just selling people beautiful homes. You're helping them live beautifully because you make it easier for them to be a homeowner.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the easiest way. Going to get new business is fun, but it's a heck of a lot easier to maintain old relationships to get additional business versus going out and earning the trust over and over again, brand new versus you've already done it once.
Cool. So step 1 is have a database, have my couple hundred people. Step 2 is have a vendor network so that I can make offers. Do you need the painter? Do you need the flooring expert? How can I help? At some point, though, I'm quickly going to run out of 200 people. That might be my first week if I'm trying to have 20 conversations. What do I do once I exhaust that group?
So you call the 200 again and you say, hey, Jason, by the way, you know what? I completely forgot. I'd like to know more people like you. Who do you know that I should know, that I should talk to and just, be a good resource for them in the real estate world?
That's so good, man. When the people on your team are doing this, what usually comes out of these first 2 pass-throughs their database? Are they finding a deal usually?
Oh, yes, 100%. Yeah, they should be under contract with somebody in the first 30 days. Absolutely.
That's your expectation.
Now, we have a lot more expectations. So we have some open house expectations.
Walk me through that.
So we just did a challenge where we had 4 new agents join the team, and they had a challenge of doing 50 open houses in 60 days.
It's a lot of open houses.
And I'll use Adam as an example. He's brand new. He's 19 years old. I've known him since he was 2. He graduated high school last year, went to University of Houston for a year, decided to come back and say, you know what, I'm going to do University of Houston online. I'm going to get my real estate license. He came and interviewed with me. This is a good tie-in. I gave him the MREA book. I do it all the time. I can tell you on one hand how many people have ever come back and said, I read it. What's next? He came back the next week. I read it. What's next? And so he jumped in. He learned the systems. You know, he learned our listing presentation, learned our buyer presentation, learned our conversations around open houses, did the open houses, and he's closed at 1.6 million, 1.2 million. He's got a $700,000 closing tomorrow. He's got a 1.65 that he just got an offer today for 1.59. He's got a 385 listing on the market. He started in August.
This is unbelievable, man. What kind of open houses? Is this the same places where Jack bought his beanstalk beans? What are you doing at these open houses that's so amazing?
It's 50 open houses in 60 days.
That's the key.
It's time on task. But how many agents do you know have ever even done 50 open houses?
Yeah, that's a really great point.
Yeah, period.
So did he run out of proper? How did you do it?
Oh, no. He did 2 on a Saturday, 2 on a Sunday. He did 1 on a Thursday. He did 1 on a Monday. Instead of doing lead gen, so we do lead gen as a team every day from 9 to 11. We do a power up, 8:30, 11 o'clock. We meet again from 11 to 11:15, recap what were our wins, what did we learn, what are objections we can go over. So he just did his lead gen from open houses.
Let me ask you this for the rest of the group, because you're all doing lead generation in the morning. Why'd you decide to do it in the morning as opposed to in the afternoon?
Well, I mean, that goes back to the MREA, goes back to the one thing with Gary, right? I'm a true believer in what he teaches in him and Jay on willpower. You know, we wake up every day with so much willpower and it's out by the afternoon, at least for me. And so if I don't do it in the morning, it won't get done. So, you know, I work out early in the morning because I won't work out in the evening. I don't have the willpower. Susan, she has the willpower for the evening. I don't. And so majority of us need to do the hard things first, or we just put them off. Something else gets in our way. Maybe we get lucky and we get an appointment and we're showing something or working, negotiating an offer, but we don't jump back into lead gen at the end of the day. It just doesn't happen.
100%. Okay, so you all get together. It's now 9 o'clock. What does it look like? You're now together as a group. What happens next?
Yeah, so if you're not in the office, you're on Zoom. So we have a lead gen Zoom. And so it's not like everybody's talking on the Zoom or anything. Everybody's silent on there. But as wins happen, then you say, hey, ring the bell, because we have a bell in the office. And so if you set an appointment, you ring the bell. And so everybody's calling their database, their sphere. I start my day every day with birthdays. So, you know, with selling over 3,000 homes, I got a lot of past clients. So every day I have 4 to 6, 8 past clients to call. And so I start my days with birthdays because a lot of people answer their phones on the birthday, number one. And number two, it's just a great touch. It's just a great, I'm not asking for business. And at this point, they kind of get used to, you know, oh, it's Gene. And often I'm the first guy that they ever hear from. So it's fun.
So when y'all get in there and you're doing this at scale, there's got to be an awful lot of no's. By the way, anytime you're going to use the phone, you're going to do it in a TCPA-friendly and compliant way. That goes without saying. I know you do. How do you talk to your people about rejection?
And so that's part of our recap at 11 is just, hey, what happened? So we talk about changing lives through real estate. That's kind of the culture.
What does that mean?
Changing lives through real estate for, you know, obviously our team members means having a very successful career, making income, having the right mindset where they can go and live the lives they want to live. Changing lives for real estate for our clients, for buyers and sellers means, you know, finding them a wonderful home that's going to be great for their family, getting their house on the market, getting the top dollar, selling it with as least hassles as possible, trying to remove as much stress as possible so they can move on. And so just maintaining that with both buyers and sellers. And then for the agents, so we start the day with the last thing I say at Power Up is go help somebody. Just go help somebody. That's it. Just go help somebody. That's it. If you help somebody today, you could probably tell me the quote, right? If you help enough people, you'll get what you want, right?
That's right.
And so that's it. Just go help somebody. Go help 20 people. That's it. So we don't get on the phones as salespeople trying to get a deal. We're simply there to help facilitate anything we can do to help. Whether it's now, a year from now, 10 years from now, it doesn't matter. We're just here to facilitate. We're here to help, and we're going to come from contribution. We're not going to, you know, just beat on you to try to get you to, you know, let us in the door in that sense.
This goes from 9 to 11:30, yes?
Yes.
And 9 to 11, we're talking, and then 11 to 11:30, we're doing this wrap up. What are the different sources and different lists of data that you all are calling through? I get you're doing circle prospecting around open houses. I get you're doing database and SOI. I get you're doing birthday. What else?
Well, at this point, we're blessed to have almost 30,000 people in our database. So you can search, and so many of those are on different lists, right? So a lot of those have market reports, so we can see if somebody's looking at their value of their home. We can see if somebody's on our website, whether they make an inquiry or not. If they're looking at properties, we can see that, so they can jump in and just give them a call and just check in. You can real quick tell, hey, so-and-so. I mean, you actually sent me a market report once. I'm like, hey, Jason.
I did. And you literally called.
Yes. Right. And so, with that, it's just, we have an ample, if you want to call, we have plenty of people to call. That's not a problem.
Yeah. What do you think keeps most agents from doing that every day? Because here's the reality, man. I mean, you have 20 conversations a day, you're going to be good. You all get together for 2 hours in the morning and you knock it out. But yet, the vast majority of real estate agents don't live that way.
So I think two things. One is time on task. And second is fear of rejection, fear of not knowing what to say. We actually talked about that in the Power Up today. And going back to saying, hey, look, we're just here to help. And we truly believe what we do makes a difference for people. So if we're not doing it, they could end up with a crappy agent, right? They could end up with a really bad experience. They could end up with a horrible financial situation. And so we have experience that make a difference. And so we're obligated to go out there and help people, period. We have the tools to do it. Let's go help some people. That's it. So we have that mindset. Now, getting back to, I think it's important to know, I ended up switching over to Tony DeCello as a coach.
You've had some of the best coaches.
Oh man, ever. I don't know. I went from Tony to Abe Shreve.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, but blessed with Tony, and Tony taught me, he said, hey, Gene, because I wasn't consistently generating. And he really got on me on that. And he said, look, give me 30 minutes. And then we did that for a couple of weeks. And then he got me to an hour. Then he got me to an hour and a half. And then he got me to 2 hours. And then he got me to 3 hours. After 3 hours, I'm toast. Really, I'm good for 2 to 2.5 hours. I'm just really not very good after that in my mind. So he got me into that. He got that habit instilled in me to where today it's so easy for me to get on the phones. I kind of feel weird if I'm not, just shake a little bit. Just because I know there's people that if I don't touch them, they're not going to get touched. And so I do have a fear that they're not going to end up with a good situation at this point. So
we did an episode of the show with Nick Waldner the other day. If you haven't listened to that episode, please go back and listen to it. And he is recanting a story. His mother was in the business prior to him joining. And his mother's now getting ready to retire out, and Nick is now building this giant company. And he says, well, give me your database and I'll work it for you. And I'll send you a referral fee. And she says, what's a database? And he looks at her like dumbfounded. And he explains the concept to her. And then she says, why would I need all their name and phone numbers? When they are ready to buy and sell, they should call me. And I was thinking about that because on one hand, that makes logical sense. On the other hand, we both know that's not how our industry works.
Statistically, it's not true.
Why do you think it doesn't work that way?
Well, statistically, we know that 85% of the people, when they're polled, they'd say, hey, I would use my agent again. But after 2 years, less than 10% remember who their agent's name is because they're not on a really good touch plan to bring value for the next, really, we know it's not 2 years, right? It's 7 to 10 years before they're going to make another transaction. And so what are you doing to set up yourself to bring value for the next 7 to 10 years? And I always tell people, and I've had this people where they've said, hey, if I need anything, I'll call you. I said, you know what? That's great. That's awesome. I said, however, it's not your job to remember me. It's my job to stay in touch with you if you're okay with that.
That's so good.
And I like to use the analogy of when people think of real estate, they think of me, right? The same thing as you think of a soft drink. I want to think of Coke or Pepsi, right? I don't want to be Fanta. I don't want to be Mr. Pibb. I want to be Coke or Pepsi. So the only way I can do that is to really stay in front of them some way, in a powerful way. And some people do it with social media. Some people do it with the great touches, with videos and everything like that. That's awesome. It's whatever works for you.
That's our first Mr. Pibb reference on the show, and we are more than 65 episodes in. It's awesome that you just said that. Let me ask you this. You have 30,000 plus people in the database, which means you have to be running some sort of a model by which people don't get ignored or slip through the cracks. Because with 30,000 people, You got to have some method to the madness. How do you keep track of all these people? How are you tagging them in the system to make sure that everyone's getting touched?
So everybody's on a plan some way or another. And unless they've asked to be taken off, then they're absolutely taken off, right? So everybody's on a touch plan, minimum an email. And so, with 3,000 past clients of those 30,000, that's the most important part of the database. The other ones are people that have inquired, come through open houses, different things like that. It's much less of a met versus a haven't met. And so the main thing is everybody's on a plan. If they own a house, they're on a market snapshot or a market report. So they're getting a market update every 2 weeks of their home value, showing them everything around their house that's for sale, under contract, and sold, and a brief evaluation of value. And always asking them, do you think this value is right? Because lots of times they click on it and say no. So that's raising their hand for us to touch base and say, let's talk about that. Is there a good time for us to take a look at it so we can really give you an accurate value of the home?
You run a very high value, high touch team for the agents that are on it. You all are always available. You're constantly doing team activities. You're curating events for them. I mean, you're providing a ton of value. In return, though, you're asking them to live a regimented lifestyle and have standards.
For half the day.
Can you talk to me about the conversations when someone isn't living up to those standards?
It's pretty simple. There's 4 things you have to do in order to be able to qualify to receive leads from the team. Other than, you have to learn to buyer presentation and listing presentation. That's a have to. But once you qualify from that, you have to show up for Power Up 4 days a week. Because we do Power Up Monday through Thursday. Friday is a free day. We do have a call at 10 that we're on. But you have to do that. You cannot have more than 10 overdues in your to-dos in your database for past clients and current clients.
What would be an example of that? I'm supposed to call you and I have a purposeful to-do set and then I don't?
Exactly. It was a follow-up call after a closing. It was a follow-up call after meeting an open house, whatever it is, whatever plan you had that person on. Because we'll have somebody on a 1-day plan, a 7-day plan, a 14-day plan, a month plan, a quarterly plan, a yearly plan, whatever it might be. And so if you have more than 10 overdues, why would I ever give you more business if you can't keep up with that business?
100%. Okay, so I got to show up for my power hours 4 days a week. I have to make sure I don't have more than 10 missing or past due to-dos, which means I better get caught up if I do. What's number 3?
4 open houses a month.
Okay.
And there's more than that when you first start. However, and then the one that's kind of unspoken is you have to have a pending with every 30 days. So if you haven't had a pending last 30 days, then you're kind of on probation.
Okay, well, let's walk through this. Let's say, for argument's sake, that I'm crushing number 1. I'm there 5 days a week. You love seeing me, and I love showing up. I'm making sure I don't have any of these missed to-dos, but I'm not doing any open houses. How does that conversation between you and I unfold?
So Susan has these conversations. So I wish she was here because she has a whole dashboard that she looks at and she watches. And so we track. So everybody sees every day. There's a report every day of how many contacts you made, or how many dials you made, how many contacts you made, how many appointments you set every day. So we can see who the leaderboard is on the team, who's making the most contacts. You made a lot of contacts, but there's no appointments. Okay, so let's talk about who you talk to. What conversations can we adjust to get to an appointment in that sense? But if somebody's doing the effort, if they're doing the activities, 100%, typically, very rarely do we have somebody that's not doing open house. Just culturally, we understand that you can figure out a way to do, an open house a week or 2 next weekend. So it's just culturally, it's not really a problem. But if somebody, they just missed 1, but they've really put in the activities, we might give them a pass.
There's a lot of genius in the things that you're saying, but one of them is the coaching and the consulting happens in between the results from the activities. Because you said something, you said, well, if they're not having contacts, there's an opportunity for us to coach them by changing the list. Or if they're making a kind of contacts, but they're not setting appointments, there's another opportunity for me to jump in as the coach and maybe help them with their conversation frameworks. So you're tracking things in order to figure out how to play a role in their life.
100%. Yeah. We don't want somebody that's failing here, right? We want somebody winning. And so if they're doing the right things and they're failing, see if we can help them. If we can't, maybe it's just not the right fit, right? And so there's no reason, and even having those 200 people the day you start, that's a test. That you have to have them in the database the day you start. There's a reason for that, right?
Well, you must get some people that, quote unquote, join the team that never get to the 200 people and never actually fully start with you.
Nope.
Doesn't happen.
100%. Yeah, 100%. However, it all depends on your skill set too, right? I've got one agent, she can literally make 5 phone calls and set one appointment.
That's either a curse or it's a gift because she'll make the 5, set the appointment and go home. Or does she grind out the 2 hours?
She's at a point in her life where she owns multiple rental properties. She does very good in her business. And she just spent 16 days in Switzerland. So, she had 3 closings while she was gone. So it's one of those things that she doesn't, live to work. She works to live. And so she understands. So she just, she picks up the phone and she makes contact. She doesn't have to have the dialogue in her head of what to say next. She can pick up the buying sign, the selling sign. She knows how to bring value. If you don't know it, you can be taught that, but it's one of those things but a brand new person, they could get someone on the phone and they're like, no, I'm not ready to sell yet. Click. Okay, bye. Versus, if you were to sell, when would you, right?
Yeah.
What would cause you?
You're an avid real estate investor, you're a builder, you do a lot of things. Talk to me about your philosophy on real estate investing and how that's evolved over the career.
I really wish I would have taken Gary's advice more when I walked into a listing and said, should I buy this or should I list it? And so that is definitely something that is much stronger for myself and for the team today. It's like, all right, should we buy this? Should we list it? That same agent I was just talking about that was in Switzerland, she just closed on a property in the hill country, 18 acres with an old house on it, horse farm, and got a wonderful deal on it because another agent on the team said, hey, somebody wants to sell this. They want to sell it off market. They do not want to go to market. They have their own reasons for it. Here's the price. The funny thing is that she shot out there and looked at it. I went out and looked at it, and I called the agent and she said, oh, Tom, she already wants it. I'm like, oh, man.
I just missed.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's awesome. Those are the opportunities that, the team can build on for itself. And so the philosophy of should I buy it or should I list it is something that, I'm very grateful that Gary has brought that, just puts that out there over and over again because we think, oh, we should list it. And it's the short term thinking of the commission versus long-term wealth building.
Love that. All right, I want to switch gears. I'm going all the way back to ancient Athens. There was a philosopher named Epicurus, and he buys this incredible villa in downtown Athens, which is this bustling city. And instead of having large audiences to talk about the facts of life, he has small groups come into his garden and they unpack the deepest questions in existence. We want you, Gene, to join us in our garden. Will you join us?
Sure. Let's do this.
You have been business partners with your chosen for quite some time. How do you do it? How do you run a thriving business and be as happily married as you are? What's the key to marital bliss and business success when you merge the two?
So we've been together 33 years and business really strong the last 15. So there was 10, 12 years where she was really full on at home with the kids. And so really the main thing is, and she's always had a coach. I've always had a coach. As a matter of fact, Tony DeCello coached her out of our business twice.
Sounds about right.
Yes, because there were certain responsibilities that she was taking on that she was not committed to because of family first. And so today she's very focused and she has her lane. I have my lane. We do not very rarely, we cross paths during the day, maybe have lunch, something, question, but we really stay apart. I'm over on the sales. She's on the backside and, just making sure everything else is running great. And she does the accountability side because she's stronger than I am on that in the sense of with the agents. And she just brings a different bow to it. She just really gets into what they're looking for when I'm more like, did you do this? Did you do this? Do this. And so anyway, but yeah, the balance is staying in your lane. That's been the big thing. Just she has her lane, I have my lane. And even at home, there's a time where we understand we don't talk. We're done. When
you think about goal setting, do you all goal set for your lives and then your business, or do you goal set for your business and then your lives?
It's really both. Mary Tennant she taught a goal setting class at the Southwest Market Center many years ago. And we took that and adopted it, modified it. And we've actually taught it many times ourselves. And we just learned to just go away, write down everything that you want to do, if you could do anything, have any skill, just start writing. And so we'd go away from each other for an hour or two, come back, we'd read each other's It would make me think of some. I could see what's important to her, back and forth. And then you just rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. So you have 200 to 300 things. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how important it is to you? You got your 10s, right? Then on a scale of 1 to 10, how doable is it? Is it realistic? Like Susan, hers is always on the list as being a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, right? How important to her? 10. How doable is it? 1, right?
I don't know. I wouldn't count her out, by the way, between you and I. She could do it.
Yeah, well, that's what she'd say. And so anyway, long story short, you have your 20s, right? And your 19s and your 18s. Once you get past those, the 17s, 16s, those don't really matter much. And so you break those out into your business, your personal, and your individual. You know, what's important to you, what's important to the family, and what's important to the business. And so that real quick just aligns us as a couple, you know, what's important to us.
I love that. You've raised a beautiful family. How did you build balance and family time into it? Because our industry, I mean, this thing is like, this can be all encompassing if you let it, especially running it as a husband and wife team. What were the rituals that you put in place to make sure that you had time?
You know, that was the blessing of joining Keller Williams in 2000, right? MREA came out, right? Right after. And so with that, we had the 7 levels and we understood leverage, right? I got the leads, I got the listings, but I didn't understand the leverage. And so once you start having a family, all of a sudden you realize you need leverage in order to be able to maintain and grow your business. And so learning how to hire a really great executive assistant that can just offload so much and allow you to grow your business that way and balance back time, buy back time to your family, and then bring in a buyer's agent and finding out, oh my gosh, I'm not showing properties, I'm not searching for properties. They're out doing that and I'm making money. And then adding a listing agent, you know, and so just by doing that and growing a team is, you know, the biggest blessing is how we were able to really find that balance and not just freaking be overrun by buyers and sellers and, you know, trying to fulfill what we could, you know, with these clients.
When you look up and you look, I mean, 30 years is a long time. You guys have had a perennial successful team, which means that you've made plenty of money. What's interesting about your story is you didn't start with a lot of it.
No.
Your view of it has probably changed over your lifetime. When you think about wealth and money today, what does money mean to you?
It's just freedom. That's it. I mean, it's, you know, for us, it's just by having the money, we don't have to think about the next deal. And if you're thinking about the next deal, can you really give the same service and love to somebody if you need the money? You just don't. It's just, you may just kind of push a little harder or try to get a deal done because, you know, you'd like to see that commission check show up. And so, you know, with that, it just gives us a lot more freedom to run our business the way we want to run it and not feel the pressure of needing every deal happen.
Last question for me. When you look back over 30 years, one of two things is true. Either the industry has changed a ton or the industry really hasn't changed much at all. By the way, I've heard people give me both answers and justify it. Which side do you fall on?
I mean, obviously just the basics have changed, right? When I started, we didn't have an MLS. You know, we had a book. You know, there was no cell phones. You know, I had a pager.
Friends at home, I wish you could see this because he doesn't look old. Because I know not all of you know who he is. The guy looks great. How old were you when you started this thing?
23.
Yeah, dude, there was no MLS when you started.
No. Not online. So you know, it was in a book. It showed up every week and everybody ran and grabbed it, you know.
Me too. I still remember it fondly.
So you got the basic technology part of it, absolutely. But nothing's changed in the sense of, again, today we're blessed with the technology to be able to stay in touch with more people, right? So that's why the income for the average agent, if they build a database of enough people who think about them when they think of real estate, is just endless. And so, you know, that's the blessing we have in the change of the technology, but you still got to go build the relationships. You got to build the trust. And so what's your platform for that? What are your personal values, you know, that you build your foundation on, that you can stand on and not get knocked over and ruin the reputation that you might be building?
There's a calmness and a clarity about you that is infectious. Like you seem so centered. Were you a hothead younger and you've mellowed to this point? Or is this just what you see is what you get and you're very clear on what matters most?
You know, I've been very blessed from a very long time ago to just learn not to burn bridges. And so I just, you know, every person matters. And it just, man, even though you want to blow somebody up, it's just not worth it. I mean, it's happened. Don't get me wrong. it's just in the big picture, it's so weird how things come back around and you just end up working with somebody that you just really wanted to take a shotgun to, so, and I get it. Some people are hyped up and that's just not me. I am pretty low. I am a introvert at heart, 100%.
The fact that an introvert can find such success in a business, which on face value feels like you have to be extroverted, is wildly refreshing.
Yes, 100%. I asked Gary Keller one thing. I asked him, we were in a room one day and we were doing the old ABA and everybody was getting out their numbers, right? And I said, Gary, so here's mine. I'm not like all these top producers. We just use the DISE, right? I'm not a high D, right? And he said, Gene, there's one thing that none of these assessments tell you, and that's desire. So what is your desire, right? So your desire to be more than what you came from is why you keep showing up in these rooms, right? Why you keep learning, why you keep doing what you're doing in that sense. So it's really, for me, it's just the desire to make a difference, desire to go out and change lives through real estate. It's a platform that I was given. I mean, what a blessing I've gotten, both being with Keller Williams, even being in Austin, Texas, in a city that's grown and grown versus, I could have been in a city that was getting smaller and smaller. And so I just got a lot of blessings.
It's awesome. Gene, thank you for everything you and Susan are both doing for the industry. We are grateful.
My pleasure.
I think it's so interesting that he comes up to Gary Keller and says, hey, I look at my personality profile and I'm not like all these other people. I'm not this high driving D who's wildly social. I'm something different. Here's what Gary taught me. Gary said, Jason, in the world of personality graphing, there's no graph for success. Meaning everybody, regardless of your personality profile, can find massive success if you're willing to master the one thing that's most important in the business that you choose. And for agents, it's always going to be lead generation. I mean, think about it. I wish I could walk you through all the steps, but heck, there's only 3 of them. Number 1, have 20 conversations a day. Think about the math. That's 100 people a week that you're having real conversations with. Number 2, if you're going to talk to someone, you got to have something to say. He built out his vendor network so that no matter what your problem in the world of home ownership is, he has the solution. And then number 3, and I'm terrified to say it, because number 3 is, in a TCPA-friendly and compliant way, actually make the calls. And you know what? It's number 3 that everybody stumbles on. And here's what I believe the reason why is. Because they get into the real estate business with the promises of untold wealth and riches, unlimited earning potential, and make your own calendar and be your own boss. And what happens is they fall in love with number 2 and 3, and number 1 never happens. There is a quiet discipline about Gene. I'm going to say this, and he's going to be embarrassed. He's like a warrior monk as far as I'm concerned, because he wakes up every day and he does the one thing that matters most, and he's incredibly kind and gracious to all the people around him. Add in the accountability that Susan brings into that world, and you have a mega business. Here's what I'm going to tell you. They're so clear on what they do day in and day out to drive the agents on their team to be successful that there can be no debate. My question to you, are you as clear as they are? And if not, can you make today the day you get clear? Go forth and do likewise. There it is. That wraps another episode. Friends, I don't know what you're taking out of this. I really don't. I'll tell you what I want you to be taking out of it, which is these are the people that are having tremendously big lives. And the reason it's happening is because they're setting up the models and systems to do just that. Gary Keller told me that leadership is teaching people how to think so that they do the things they need to do when they need to do them, so that ultimately they get the things they want when they want to have them. And that's what I want for you. You're all leaders, but it begins with leading ourselves. If you're enjoying this podcast, I want you to click the subscribe button anywhere that you get your podcasts. We want to be the voice in your head every single week. And every week, we're dropping new content. We also send out a newsletter at the conclusion of every show to make sure that you get the highest points and the models and systems that were discussed. So if you want to sign up, I need your name and your email address. Head over to the millionaireagentpodcast.com. millionaireagentpodcast.com. Enter your name and your email address, and every week, that newsletter will be in your box. Friends, you just went on a journey. I hope that what happens between now and the next time we meet is absolutely wonderful for you. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not KWRI and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information. Warning: you must comply with the TCPA and any other federal, state, or local laws, including for B2B calls and texts. Never call or text a number on any do not call list, and do not use an auto dialer or artificial voice or pre-recorded messages without proper consent. Contact your attorney to ensure your compliance.